Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara. Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Sarvalokanam Bhijaje Bhavaroginam Nidhaye Sarvavidhyanam Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha. Nirvignam Guru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Gajananam Bhutaganasidhevidam Kavittajambhopalasaravakshidam Umasudam Shokavinashakaranam Namami Vigneshwarapada Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnam Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyaye Sarvavighnopashantये Vyasam Vasishtanaptaram Shakte Pautramakalmasham Parasharatmajam Vande Shukadhatam Taponidhim Vyasaya Vishnurupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidhaye Vasishtaya Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudhiraye. Shri Namaha. Last week, we were looking at discussing about Shantanu getting married again. Anyone remember who all attended last week's session or listened to the YouTube? Raise your hand if you attended. Only one? Anyone else attended? Okay, so anybody want to narrate story from last week? Anyone want to try? Raghav, if nobody comes, I will come to you. Yeah, I know you know it. Anyone else want to give a try? It's okay if you get it wrong. Anybody attended last week? I think some of you raised your hand.
Someone was in a boat, and then there was some girl driving the boat, and then he had a condition to marry the king, and it was that her daughter must be the next king, and not the other, his son, her son.
Okay, anybody else want to have a go? Is everybody listening to these stories? Anybody else before I go to Raghav? Somebody else, try. Okay, Raghav, it's your turn. Everyone shy. Next week, I'm going to ask questions. It's going to be exams and then the stories. Only if you answer, then we'll continue with the next stories. Okay.
So, Satyavati.
Very good. Good start. Very good start. So it's not someone came there, someone went there, someone got married to someone, and someone had a children and someone died in the end. That's not the story. Okay. The story has names. So we have to remember those names, characters. Very good. Satyavati is a good start.
Satyavati is the fisherman's daughter, and Shantanu wanted to marry her, but and she said that Satyavati said that you have to go to my father if you want to marry me, like, because he has some conditions. So Shantanu asked the fisherman what were the conditions. He said that the conditions were that the son born to Satyavati must become the next heir to the throne, and all other things that the heir to the throne does must be given to them. And hearing this, Shantanu went away very sadly. He ruled over and everything, but he was very sad because he wanted to marry Satyavati, but he also wanted Devavrata to be Devavrata to be the king. So Devavrata saw one day that his father was very sad, and then his father told him that he didn't exactly tell him what happened, but he said that if you were to die, then who would be the heirs to the throne? He said that, and then he understood that he wanted to marry someone. So he went to the fisherman and asked for the conditions. When he heard them, he said, he will accept every single condition the fisherman said, and he will not become king, he will not marry, and so on. And then after taking all those terrible vows, the voices from heaven called him Bhishma. And then Satyavati married Shantanu. You're on mute.
Very good, Raghav. Very good, very well said. Does everyone remember now the names? Satyavati, Shantanu, the king Shantanu going to fisherman, and then fisherman making his condition that his Satyavati's sons should become the king, and Devavrata makes a vow, first vow, saying that whoever born to Satyavati will become king and he will not become king. And then the fisherman again says, you are a good person, you made this vow, but what happens to your children if they can make a claim to the throne? And then Devavrata makes the second vow. He says that he will never get married, so he will never have children. So at that time, he's called Bhishma, the terrible vow maker. Okay, so that's why he's called Bhishma. From that point, he becomes Bhishma, and then Bhishma brings Satyavati to Hastinapura. Okay. Yes, Raghav.
I forgot what else happened was that Shantanu also gave a boon to Bhishma that he can die whenever he wanted.
Very good. Yes. So that's where we stopped. So it is called Ichamrityu. So that means he can die whenever he wants. Okay. That doesn't mean that we also got Ichamrityu. So if someone dies suicide, it's not Ichamrityu. Ichamrityu is completely different. Okay. There is a lot of confusion. People say that suicide is Ichamrityu. It's not. Okay. Suicide is one of the most heinous sins in our religion. Okay. If anyone does commit suicide, their Atma is said to become a preta. That means it will not go to heaven or hell. It will be hanging somewhere in middle. Okay. For a kalpa, that means a Brahma's entire day. It will hang like that. So it will never go anywhere. And next, that's the reason. Okay. That's why suicide is not the right place. Not the right thing to think. If someone says, I'm going to do Ichamrityu, it's not. Ichamrityu is when you are relieved of all the pains internally and externally, when you're ready to reach the next stage. Okay. Whatever the other state of every normal death everyone gets is not Ichamrityu, because everyone, even if somebody has a heart attack and dies instantly, there is a moment when they feel the pain. Okay, which we don't realize that those heart patients, they probably will feel that for a second. Okay, and they will not die in their own wish. So Ichamrityu is completely different. So the story next continues. Okay, so Bhishma, where was I? So Shantanu marries. Okay, so after some time, Chitrangada, a boy was born to Satyavati and Shantanu. Okay, Satyavati gives birth to a son and he was called Chitrangada. And after a few more years, another son was born and he was called Vichitravirya. So we have two sons to Satyavati. Satyavati had a son before marriage. Anyone remember what's his name?
Devavrat.
No, Devavrata is Ganga's son.
Then
Vyasa, Krishna Dvaipayana, Vyasa.
no.
Yes. So before marriage, she had Vyasa through Parashara, right? Parashara, one day, if you remember, I told you the story a few weeks ago. So now through Shantanu, after marriage, she has two children, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. And they both, so before Vichitravirya become a teenager, Shantanu died. Okay, Shantanu died at that time. So what Bhishma did was he installed Chitrangada as king. As promised, he did not become king. He installed Chitrangada as king, and Chitrangada was very powerful. Okay, he was very strong, he was powerful, and he controlled the entire earth. One day, on banks of river Saraswati, he comes across a Gandharva called Chitrangada. Okay, his name, Gandharva's name also Chitrangada. And they start arguing, saying, I am the Chitrangada and I rule the world. And Gandharva did not like it. So he challenged him for a battle. They both had a battle that lasted 3 years, continuous battle. And in that battle, Chitrangada got killed. So Satyavati lost her first son. Then with that death, Bhishma installs Vichitravirya as the king. Vichitravirya at that time still, he was very toddler. He was very young boy, very little child. Okay, he wasn't grown up. He wasn't fit to be king, but Bhishma did not want himself to become king. So he put Vichitravirya on the throne, and Bhishma did all the duties, make sure that the kingdom was run properly. He made sure that everything happens normally. Okay, but so after some time, when Vichitravirya, he becomes elder, okay, adulthood, Bhishma decides that it is time to marry Vichitravirya, okay, it is time to marry him. So what Bhishma does is, at that time, he hears that there are 3 daughters to the king of Kashi. Okay, he hears about them. So they are beautiful like Apsaras. So Bhishma thinks that they are the right girls for Hastinapura's king. So he goes there. Those daughters, for all the 3 daughters, there was Swayamvara was arranged. Swayamvara. Swayam means, Vara means self-choosing. Okay, self-choice. So girls, all the kings, princes, everybody will go there, and girl will pick whoever she thinks is the right fit for her. Okay, and all the others who don't get a girl, they just head home back, eating the wedding meal, and then they head home. That's it. Okay, there is somebody lucky who gets the girl. So that's Swayamvara. Bhishma hears about that this Kashi king has arranged Swayamvara for his 3 daughters, and Bhishma thinks that those 3 are right girls for his brother Vichitravirya. So he goes to Kashi in a single chariot. No army, nothing, on himself alone. He goes there. He looks at the assembly. There are a lot of kings, princes, everybody is assembled. And those 3 girls were ready to pick their husbands. At that time, Bhishma says, okay, I am in the name here. I am here in the name of king of Hastinapura, Vichitravirya, and I'm here to take these 3 girls, okay, for them. He did not let those 3 girls choose the husband, okay. Instead, Bhishma said, I am taking these 3 girls. If you remember, some time ago, I told you different types of marriage. You remember in which story? Anyone? When Dushyanta and Shakuntala were meeting, Dushyanta explained different types of marriage. You remember? Here also, again, Bhishma explains different types of marriage. he again explains this Brahmana type marriage where a girl's husband's, the bridegroom's father's families meet and they agree, and then the marriage happens and things like that. So different types of marriage where girl's father willingly gives the daughter, where girl is kidnapped by force or she was drugged and then taken away, and then or everyone fights for her and then wins her, or somebody gives her money and then takes her dakshina, so they will give her gift and then take her. Like that, there are different ways one used to marry a girl. Okay, and Bhishma says here I am here to battle every one of you if you want to fight, but I'm taking these 3 girls for my brother. And when he says that, all the kings and everyone assembled there, they were shocked. They were there in the hope that they are going to get married to a new girl, but Bhishma comes and then says he's taking all of them. Then suddenly they're shocked, and then they were all came there dressed up for the wedding, and then they had to change their get up, everything, set up all the things. They had to take off all their ornaments, everything, and then put the armor. So they had to be ready for the battle with Bhishma. So they all became ready, and it took all the jewelry, everything what they set aside, and then they took their weapons, and then they started fighting with Bhishma with their eyes contracted and eyes in rage, eyes in red color, no patience. They were ready to fight Bhishma because he's the one who is not letting the Swayamvara happen. So they started releasing arrows, thousands and thousands of arrows, everybody together attacking Bhishma. What Bhishma does is he responds to every one of them on his own. Single-handedly, he fights every one of them and he disarms every one of them. So once he defeats all of them, Bhishma was about to head towards Hastinapura. At that time, another king comes. He is the king of Shalva. Okay, he says Shalva. His name is Shalva. He comes there and then he stops Bhishma. And what Bhishma does between them is a terrible battle takes place. Okay, Shalva was a very powerful king, and he releases again thousands and thousands of arrows towards Bhishma, and then Bhishma again counters all his weapons. And then towards the end, Bhishma uses Varunastra. Varuna is god of ocean. So his weapon he releases. Through that, Bhishma kills the horses of Shalva. And then once he kills them, Shalva could not move. And then the next thing is he kills Shalva's charioteer. And then once the charioteer is killed, Shalva again could not move or anything. He disarms Shalva, all his bows, everything he cuts across. And then he lets Shalva go away. He did not kill him. He lets him go away. So after conquering everybody, Bhishma heads to his own kingdom, his town, Hastinapura, his city, with 3 princesses from Kashi. And when he reaches Hastinapura, he explains everything to Satyavati, his mother, whatever happened. And then he tells Vichitravirya that he has got these 3 princesses from Kashi. And then he says, we shall marry these 3 princesses to Vichitravirya. At that time, the eldest of those 3 princesses, her name is Amba. She says, she goes to Satyavati and then says, before Bhishma took us from Kashi, I already decided to marry Shalva, king of Saubha. Shalva, I already decided to marry him. And this was also, my father also approved this one. And in my heart, I already married him. You tell me now, what should I do? Okay. When she Amba says that Satyavati asked Bhishma what to do next. And Bhishma, knowing himself all the dharma, everything, and then he also consulting all the Brahmanas, he says he lets Amba to do whatever she wishes to do. Okay. And then he marries the other two daughters, Ambika and Ambalika, to Vichitravirya. So 3 daughters of Kashi king, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika. Amba says she does not want to marry because she already gave her heart to king of Shalva and she did not want to marry Vichitravirya. But Ambika and Ambalika were happy to marry and they marry Vichitravirya. Okay. So Vichitravirya is married, and here again, Vyasa here, Vaishampayana narrating this story to Janameja explains how beautiful Ambika and Ambalika were. They were tall in their structure. Their color was like a melted gold. They were such a shiny body, and their heads were covered with black curly hair. Okay, and fingernails were high and red colors. They were fit. They were looking very beautiful. Okay, with all the auspicious marks and everything. Those 2 girls, princesses, married Vichitravirya. Okay, and like that, they were living happily. Vichitravirya married. There is about 6 years passed like that. Okay, Amba's story, Mahabharata does not detail at this moment much. The story again comes back a little bit later. Okay, in Bhishma Parva, again, when Bhishma was about to die, the story comes back again about Amba's story, what happens to her and things like that. So here the story continues with Vichitravirya. Okay, so Vichitravirya married to 2 princesses of Kashi. Who are the names? What are the names? Ambika, Ambalika. Okay, so Ambika, Ambalika married and they were living like that happily for some time. But all of a sudden, Vichitravirya was attacked by, when he was still young, he was attacked by phthisis. So phthisis is tuberculosis, okay, in modern day. So he was attacked by that and they tried everything to cure him, but they could not. The king, the prince of Kuru, Hastinapura, Vichitravirya died. So Bhishma and Satyavati were back to same problem. Earlier, Chitrangada. So Chitrangada died in a battle with a Gandharva called Chitrangada. And then now Vichitravirya died of illness. Okay, so both of them died, and here Bhishma plunged. He was in a deep anxiety and he was in grief because the kingdom did not have any children, any princes to continue at that stage. Dhruti, I think you raised hand a couple of times. Anything? Any question?
Like why did the other girl like marry the boy, another boy?
Because she was already in love with King of Shalva. She was already in love. She wanted to marry King of Shalva, King Shalva, and here Bhishma forcefully took these 3 girls from Kashi to Hastinapura, right? When Bhishma took him, so when she reaches Hastinapura, she tells that she's already in love, she's already wanted to marry somebody else. And she asked Satyavati, what should I do? She was actually wanted to marry Shalva, but she could not say directly that I don't want to marry Vichitravirya because she's already been taken to Hastinapura. That's why she asked Satyavati, what should I do? And then Satyavati and Bhishma tell her to do whatever she wished to do. So that means you can go and marry Shalva as you wish.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, anyone at this stage? So names to remember next week. Okay. Kashi town, 3 girls, Amba, Ambika, Ambalika, Shalva. Okay, I'm going to ask next week again. So we have Chitrangada, Vichitravirya, 2 sons born to Satyavati, and both of them died. Okay, now Satyavati, so Vichitravirya died. Bhishma does all his kriya. All his kriya means after death, whatever that was supposed to do, everything, funeral, everything, Bhishma does it for his brother. And then Satyavati also, in deep grief, she calls Bhishma. She calls Bhishma and says that you made a promise some time ago that you will not have children, but all the children we had in this Kuru dynasty, all the princes, both of them are died. Now, there is no other option. You have to marry and we need children here. That's what Satyavati tells Bhishma. And she tells him that that's the only way this dynasty can continue. Otherwise, it will not happen because Chitravirya died, even though he's married, there are no children to him. So you have to marry now and have children. And then Bhishma reminds that, again tells her that he married her, he made a vow that he will not marry, right? He made a vow, he will not marry, and then that's why he cannot marry anybody. Even if the situation changes, now he cannot marry. But then Bhishma also begs her that he made a promise to his father. Now that his father is not there, just because of that, whatever the situation changes, he cannot break that promise. And then a promise, if a Kshatriya makes, a Kshatriya should never break it. Okay, that's what Bhishma says. But Bhishma tries to explain that there are other ways established in the dharma for Kshatriyas to have children. And Bhishma starts explaining that's the route to all the assembled ministers, Brahmanas, and Satyavati, that story. Okay, he explains 2 stories here. I'm going to cover 1 story today, and the second one we will look next week. Okay, so Bhishma here trying to explain to Satyavati what are the ways their dynasty could be continued. First story example he gives is Parasharama. Okay, so once Parasharama, I told you this at the very beginning of Mahabharata stories, Samanta Panchaka, when I was talking about Samanta Panchaka, the lake where Parasharama killed all the Kshatriyas, and from that blood, the lake was formed, and that became a Tirtha Kshetra. Okay, after the blessings. So here that story again, Parasharama story repeatedly comes in Mahabharata in different points. Okay, so here the Parasharama story is narrated what happened after Parasharama exterminated all the Kshatriyas. So the story is Parasharama killed Kartavirya Arjuna. Okay, Kartavirya Arjuna had 1,000 arms. He killed Jamadagni. Okay, Parashurama's father, Arjuna, king, he killed Jamadagni because of a argument over a cow. He killed Jamadagni, and Parashurama got angry. He took the battle axe and then he killed Arjuna. And then, not satisfied with that, he realizes that all the Kshatriyas in that age were not fit to become a king or rule the world. That's why he went around the world 21 times and terminated every Kshatriya tribe. He killed every Kshatriya man on earth. Okay. Once he killed everybody, the Kshatriya women could not have children. So what they did at that time, Kshatriya women, they went to Brahmanas. Okay, they went to Brahmanas, learned in Vedas, and through those Brahmanas, they had children. Okay, so Bhishma explains here that that's one of the way. When Kshatriyas cannot have children, they can go to Brahmanas, the learned Brahmanas, and through that Brahmana, they can have children and continue their Kshatriya race. So their dynasty, one can continue like that. So this method is called niyoga. Niyoga means it is not the husband, but someone else. Again, this is just purely to uphold the dharma. It is not of lust or any other reasons. It is only to continue the dynasty and family when there is no other option. That's one of the ways of having a children. This is again, this story again comes back again when we are looking at later in Kunti, Pandu and other children. I will explain more of different ways of having children and things like that. I will explain at that time. But this is explained here again that Kshatriyas at that time, when they were exterminated by Parasharama, they had, their race was continued through Brahmana's blessings. Okay, so that's what Bhishma explains here. So it is one of the examples Bhishma gives. The next story is a little bit longer, so I probably will cover that next week. Any questions up to now? Anyone? No? Okay, so if that's the case, let's just look at any questions up to now, whatever we discussed in Mahabharata or any other things. Any general questions, anyone? Yes, Neha.
If
Neha?
Bhishma is not getting married, then how will he get moksha?
Very good question. Okay, Bhishma, last week I said because getting married is important, right? Getting married and having children is important to attain moksha, heaven, right? That's important. But when Bhishma makes that pratigna, when he makes that vow, he says that even though I am not having children, I will attain moksha purely because of my service to my father. Purely because of his service to his father, he will attain heaven. That's what he says. So then that's the reason, that's how he attains moksha as well. Because of his service and keeping that vow, whatever the conditions that throughout him, he keeps that vow throughout his life. And because of that, he attains heaven.
Thank you.
No problem. Very good question, Neha. Anybody else? Okay, next one. I just want to cover few things on conduct again. Okay, this time we are looking at sleep. How to sleep, where to sleep, when to sleep. Okay, so first one, it says one should never sleep turned head towards north or west. Okay, never turn sleeping head towards north or west. And then again, broken bed or something, we should not sleep. And we should not sleep with another person. Okay, that's said in the Shastras. So you should never sleep with another person. And you should never sleep with, again, wet clothes or wet feet or things like that, or without clothes. You should not sleep. And during daytime, one should not sleep. Who sleeps during daytime? And one should not sleep after sunrise or before sunset. That's again daytime. Okay. After sunrise, tomorrow morning, make sure everyone wakes up. Okay. And not, again, should not sleep during Sandhya. Twilight is Sandhya. Sandhya time is very precious for doing prayers. One should not sleep during that time. Okay. And one should not sleep with someone who is impure. So all these things are not recommended. Any question?
You know, like that, I didn't sleep. I actually sleep in the daytime. That's because I was so sleepy.
Okay. You're a young child. I will explain in the next week's stories. Children are exempt from certain rules. Okay. But daytime is not the right time to sleep. Okay. Neha, is that a question or is it you forgot to lower your hand? Okay. So the next set, I just got few other things. Okay. No, before, yeah. Okay, so this is again, so you should never accept a gift from somebody who is low or vulgar. Low in the sense, not short person. Okay, it means somebody of low character, conduct. Okay, you should never accept somebody from somebody. Let's say somebody steals something, you should never accept a gift from them. Okay, and you should never again should not grieve if you do not succeed. Okay, the only thing is you are doing your actions and trying is important. Never grieve if you do not succeed. And it again says 8 paths of righteousness is sacrifice, study, charity, asceticism, truth, forgiveness, mercy, and contentment. Okay, so all these are important in life, and we should never ask, okay, never ask somebody who is a miser for asking for gifts from him, or one that speaks of ill of others. We should never ask help from them, or one that is not learned in shastras, or the one who lives in the woods, one that is cunning. All these things, cruel and habitually quarreling, all these people, even when we are in distressed, difficult situation, we should not ask for their help, it says. Okay, and the next thing is again, anger should always be controlled with forgiveness. If you get angry, control it and then try to forgive. Okay. So, I mean, there are a lot of things like this. I could continue over the next weeks, but before, instead of me teaching, are there any things you want to know? Any of you want to know, or anything we want me to focus on in the coming weeks? Any topics, anyone? Any questions or anything? Yes, Dhriti. Or is it playing?
Like, I actually do stories a lot at phone, and I don't usually get angry.
Very good. Any other questions? Anything anybody want to know in the coming weeks you want me to cover? Okay, in that case, it's nearly time. We will close today's session. Enjoy your half term. We'll see you next week. Okay. Namaste.